Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Black Digital Media TV. I'm Laron Barber, as you know, and I'm a wonderful co-host, Gina. And we have an exciting guest with us. We always have exciting guests, so that's my first word, but definitely an exciting guest. We have Shawn Belton. How are you today, Shawn?
I'm good, and how are you,
I'm
Laron?
doing good. Well, it's good to have you. Shawn is a certified life coach. And we had a very good introductory talk with Shawn, and he's just got some very good information that he can share in terms of how men can kind of also just kind of talk about some of the way that we deal issues and some ways that we can begin to release some of those things through the way his practice is. And so we're just kind of really interested and really excited to kind of hear what Shawn has to say. And so I think it's going to be a good show. Looking forward to it. Let's get into it. I'm going to pass it over to Gina. Gina will finish introducing Shawn, and we'll get into it. Gina?
Thanks, Laron. Shawn, welcome to the show. As Laron said, Shawn is he's a certified art therapy life coach, in addition to being an anger management specialist, in addition to being a shamanic life coach and a tantra practitioner. And I know I just said a mouthful for those of you who are watching, but Shawn is going to explain what all of that means in just a little while. But before we dive into it, for those of you who are watching, I know I shared this onto my lupus page. And if you've been following me for a while, I've mentioned that over the years, I've worked with a lot of different modalities in order to heal my body from lupus. Some of them I've gone into detail with you before, some I haven't. Today, we're going to be talking about a few things that I haven't mentioned, but they're very, very interesting. And they're very intriguing, and they're things that Shawn has worked with and is very knowledgeable about. So this is one show not to miss. And by the way, this is going to be part one because there was just so much to go into. This would be a 4 or 5 hour show if we just kept it going. So we're going to do part one today, and then we'll send a link out with the part 2 session that you can follow up on as well. But these videos are going to be recorded, so you can always come back and watch them. All right, so let's dive into it. Shawn, welcome to the show again.
Thank you.
When we did our meet and greet, this was last week, we literally spoke for 3 hours? I always say we need to keep this meet and greet. It's a meet and greet. Okay, leave it there for 20 minutes. But we went on for 3 hours, and we could have continued because you are a wealth of information, and that's why I want to do a part 1 and a part 2 session with you, because you have so much to share. And even though I've done some of the modalities that you've worked with, and just hearing it from a man's perspective is very intriguing to me. And that is what's really refreshing, is having you on here. Not only you're knowledgeable, but you're also bringing it from a guy's perspective. And that is what I really, really am looking forward to hearing what you have to say. So can you give us a little bit more information on your qualifications? I know you're an art therapy life coach, and I definitely want you to build on that a little bit, because you have another name that you call yourself, the Dream Sketcher. So Can you develop that just a little bit more and explain to our viewers why you call yourself the Dream Sketcher?
To answer your first question, 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And at that time, I was working remotely for a company. And at the same time, I was a part-time Lyft driver. So when I realized that I had this obstacle or challenge, I used my EAP benefits from my employer to seek out a therapist. And when I sought out a therapist, I was very specific of what I wanted, who I wanted to speak to. I asked for a Black woman, someone preferably that was in my area. I currently live in New Jersey, so they luckily found someone that was in the next town over. She was a military vet. She immediately did not want me on pills. At the time, New Jersey was not yet legalizing the whole recreational marijuana, but she referred me to a medical marijuana doctor. And I was grateful for that, even though it took me a while to get through that process. She recommended to me to seek out certain outlets, because at that time I was also spending time in nature and practicing meditation. So I said, okay, I will, look into some other outlets. And shortly after that conversation that we had, I like to always give gratitude to the algorithms. Sometimes we say, oh, they're selling our data, they're manipulating our data. And shortly after that, I came across a art therapy life coaching course online while scrolling on Instagram. And I signed up for the course. And one of the first things that I learned was that an art therapy life coach is someone who helps other people tap into their creativity. And so, mind you, that was something that I had not done in a while. Like as far as art, I had not drawn or painted since I was 13. For those who may know me personally, since childhood, that was something that I did. And, I kind of moved away from it. I don't even know why. I'm still trying to process why I left it alone for so long. But one of the first activities or assignments that I had to do was to draw a mandala. That was something that I had never did before, but the intention of the mandala, drawing the mandala, was to get my focus off of what I don't have control of and focus on what I do have control of. So me doing that assignment, I came up with the idea of drawing my dreams. At that time, maybe like a year or two prior, or I'll even say since 2011, I've experienced very lucid dreams. I've had a lot of vivid dreams. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to experiment with this, explore this. And so whenever I would have dreams or just I would feel led to want to draw or, whatever, I would draw my dreams. And then I got into where I would meditate and then I would have visions, or I would wake up, how you before you wake up, you're kind of still asleep. I would have waking visions. So I would start to draw what I would see in these visions. Then I got into, just people's imagination or people's feelings. And, it just kind of expanded on and on. So that's where the Dream Sketcher name comes from. Because I bought a sketchbook and, I would go out into nature and have my art supplies, my little color pencils and my pens, and just start, drawing. And I never really had an idea of what it was sometimes that I was going to draw. It would just be me sort of kind of like just being out there, communing with the elements and letting whatever come through me. So that's where that name comes from.
Yeah, I was very drawn to that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say right there, it's kind of interesting you have that name, Dream Sketcher, and I'm glad you asked that question, Gina, because a lot of people we start our own business, but there's always a story behind the name and how we came up with that. I don't know if anybody would have ever thought of that's why you came up with that, but that's definitely kind of neat how you did that, and very, very, very on point for your drawing. Definitely, good job.
Yeah.
I definitely want to bring up something about that though, because you mentioned you're drawing your dreams, right? So do you keep a dream journal beside it?
I do keep a dream journal. Early on, I really didn't, because I didn't really. I was kind of like against the whole like writing, because over the years I did keep journals and then I would throw them away or rip them up or burn them. And so shortly after that, I kind of got more into it and just kind of took a log and would, whatever I could remember, I would just write it down. Because there's so much that goes on in a dream. You don't remember everything, and then you go on throughout your day, you may have forgotten it.
Yeah.
And then you see something that's associated with your dream, you start to remember this. Oh, let me write that down.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
so
that's one of the things I started to do, was to keep a dream journal, because I was having such vivid dreams.
mhm.
And one night I had this really unusual dream,
Yeah,
and it was just so clear in my head. I grabbed a piece of sketchbook paper and I drew it out. And then I
yeah,
said, well, let me do some research, because it just looked like such a real place to me. So I did the research, and it turned
mhm.
out to be a place in Hungary. It was a
Mm,
very old graveyard. And you mentioned the lucid dreaming. I had no idea what lucid dreaming was when I was doing this.
yeah,
So but for me, it was so real. It's almost as if I visited this place. I managed to
mm,
draw it from my memory after, waking up. And
yeah.
I did some research on the internet and found the place that I dreamt about.
Wow.
And from then it started, I got really intrigued by this whole, like, that's when the whole idea of lucid dreaming started to, like, talk about algorithms, and they start popping up into, everywhere. So I
Yeah,
started looking into that, and I was really intrigued by lucid dreaming. So
yeah.
yeah,
Well, so
a lot of
let me
people
just.
may not necessarily know what lucid dreaming is. So can you
Yeah,
explain
I
a
was
little
just
bit
going to
more?
ask that question. So definitely expound on that, Sean.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I would say lucid dreaming for me. I've never really looked up the definition,
Mhm.
but just to kind of explain visually, like it seems very vivid and real. Like it feels like you're having an out of body experience, but you're conscious. And there's certain things that you feel like are kind of like like you said, like you knew where the place was in the dream,
Mhm.
and it's places that you either have been through in a past life or places that you're going to be in the future. Like that's the best way I could describe it. You know, and you may see bits and pieces of a dream. You may go through a dream, and it's like you're like, I've only been asleep for 6 hours or 4 hours, and this feels like a movie.
Right.
You
Mhm.
know, and
Now,
then you're
go
you're
ahead,
you're
Sean.
you're you're in places that look, that look like they're in this realm, but then there's places that look like there aren't, you know, from this physical realm. It looks more spiritual or more simulated, you know.
So, Sean, I want to, because I think we kind of touched on this the last time when we talked. When you talk about your past life, can
Hmm.
you kind of explain what you mean when you say that? Because some people may think maybe like, what is he talking about, like reincarnation? Because I think I mentioned that to you, but
Mhm.
that's not how you define a past life. And so I thought it was very interesting how when you talked to Gina, she knew what that meant. To me, you had to work with me a little bit,
Okay.
but
So
just kind
so
of expound on what that means when you say past life. Yeah.
Yeah.
so past life, like when I say past life, either the past life that I lived uh through my own body, or past life through one of my ancestors' bodies. Uh, a great movie that I recommend people to watch to kind of get an understanding of what I'm talking about visually is the movie called Dark City.
Mhm.
This is a movie that came out just before The Matrix came out. I was probably in high school when it came out, and I believe Kiefer Sutherland is in it. I'm not familiar with the other actors that are in it, but it touches on a city that looks a lot like New York, but it's always dark. It's always at nighttime, and the main character wakes up. He wakes up in I don't want to spoil the movie, but he wakes up in the beginning of the movie, and there's somebody that's been murdered, and he doesn't know why. He doesn't know if he did it or not. But there's these people, these beings that are from another dimension that are looking for him, because he has the ability to sort of channel the way they are able to channel. So what they would do, they would because their planet, wherever they came from, was destroyed. So they needed to harvest and get. They wanted to understand how the human soul worked.
Mhm.
So this main character, the whole movie, he's trying to figure out, who he was, who he's related to. And as he's trying to seek this information out, he's learning that these people that are living underground, under the city, they're stopping time, And every night at 12 o'clock, they will stop time, meaning you could be driving or in your bed or sitting at the table eating dinner, and you're still, like you're not moving at all. You're not even aware of what's going on. You might be asleep. You go to sleep. And what they do is they channel and they go around the city and they inject all the people in the city, and they take their they erase their past lives. They erase their past lives. They may inject other past lives in their mind. So this main character, he's trying to get to the beach the whole movie. When he gets to the beach, it gets a little deeper. I'm not gonna spoil the movie, but just the point is, in regards to your question, is that a past life is basically that has to do with your lineage. It has to do with who you were before you were here in this time, in this phase of humanity.
Now you also kind of mentioned, as far as like if like your ancestors or previous relatives, their bloodline, depending upon where they were at a certain point in time, and that's what you also kind of make that means, because it comes through your bloodline from your grandmother, great grandmother. So you were kind of saying that kind of means a little bit of what you mean by past life too, right?
Yes, it's like this. It's like even another movie, Underworld. Underworld is another example of that. The vampires would bite, say, someone in the bloodline or the family to get all the information from the past bloodlines that were there before them, and they would get information. They're getting ancient information. So in a sense, it's like this is all ancient information that you're experiencing from your ancestry, from your bloodline, from your lineage, those who came before you.
Yeah, that when you explained it that way, it made more sense to me, because I didn't know all the movies that you were mentioning, but when you start talking about that particular bloodline, and that's how you also kind of define past life, it kind of made it look okay. Well, then, but it's passed down through the bloodline up until today within you, right?
Yeah. And it's like this. It's like, some people say they have encounters with certain people that they've never met before, and they'll say, man, I feel like I've met you before, or I feel like I know you, but you don't know from where. But the point is to even further answer your question, it's not that you don't know, it's about you learning to remember. Like everything is already in you. The information is there in you. You just have to really learn to remember.
One of the things that where that is helpful is when you have some kind of unresolved trauma. You develop some illness, but you're not sure, well, why did I end up developing this illness? And it could have been, or you may have some allergy to something and you're not sure why. So when you go back in your family line, in your bloodline, your great grandmother or grandfather might have had something happen to them. Right. But because their bloodline is still coming through you, you are now feeling effects of something that happened a few hundred years ago. Yes. And when I first heard about the whole idea of past life, I was kind of skeptical until I really sat down and thought about it and said, yeah, we experience things that our ancestors experienced. Right? Because our bloodline has been going on for generations and generations. So when it comes to unresolved traumas that we might be experiencing, really looking at, what did your grandmother go through? What did your great grandfather, what might have gone through back in the day? And that's where doing all of this, for me anyway, I look at the genetic testing as a real something that we all should really look into, because we can see where I think some of the tests have the ability to tell you what kind of illnesses you might be predisposed to because what is in your bloodline. But that for me is what makes the whole past life study really intriguing, because you can really figure out, what exactly am I dealing with as far as traumas are concerned, unresolved traumas, and where is it coming from and how can I heal it so that I can prevent it from going further? Because, you know, you can heal from these unresolved traumas, right? And prevent your future generations from having to deal with them as well.
Well, let me ask
That's why I always say that healing is it's not a race, it's a journey, because there's always something to work on within yourself. You know, and it's not necessarily just for you. It's for your legacy, for your lineage.
So is it did we kind of mention, Gina and Shawn? So is it maybe some things that maybe some of your relatives before you, they experience some sort of things traumatically, and then within their bloodline, it's passed down to you? Is that could be some of the trauma that you're talking about as well?
Yeah, unresolved trauma. You know, them I'm sure probably didn't have the resources that we have now, you know, or them not having the understanding that we have now about how to fix those things, how to correct those things, how to confront those things, you know. And then just the whole like social emotional development and you know, just really taking it seriously, you know. Because like, you know, we all grew up with religion, you know what I'm saying? And we saw that as a therapy, we saw that as a healing, but you know, that has a, you know, not to say that that's not a doorway, you know, that's a start for some people, but there are so many different doorways to go through to do this work.
And one of the things a lot of people don't realize, and this has only been maybe the last few decades, is that your body keeps score of what's happened to you, what's happened to your grandmother, and further down. You know, if it was unresolved, it was unhealed, it's going to come through to you unhealed. So it's your job to heal it before you pass it on to
your children,
your future generations, right?
Yeah. It'll show up in your children in different ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever trauma you experience, it gets locked into the body, into your cells, unless you heal from it. And by healing from it, then it prevents it from being passed forward. So a lot of the illnesses, to me, they have an energetic origin, because there's something that's unhealed in your body, whether it be something that happened to you personally or something that happened to one of your ancestors. But if it's unhealed, it shows up somewhere in your body.
Correct.
Right? And it then eventually will trigger some form of dis-ease, and then will eventually, a lot of the times, then become a disease that we'll have to heal from. And a lot of people don't really look at illnesses as having an energetic origin, but for me, a majority of them are, you know. And I know a lot of this stuff might sound kind of woo-woo to a lot of people watching, but try to watch this live stream with an open mind, because when you really start to think about it, if you've been dealing with something for decades and doctors haven't been able to figure out what's wrong with you, and you know, you go to another doctor and they say, well, we don't know. I mean, take this pill, whatever the case is, and come back in 30 days and we'll figure something else out from there. But if you go to a doctor that will sit down with you and say, okay, give me your family history. And a lot of the times the family history does help. Yeah. The part that I don't really care about when they take the family history is they say, you know, okay, well, tell me what runs in your family. And I hate that word runs in your family, because it gives the impression that it's going to just continue. And I said, no, it might have run in the family, but this is where it runs out. Right. But when you find a doctor that can help you to figure out where something might have started, then you know how to fix it and prevent it from going forward. Right. But I think a lot of these illnesses have an energetic origin, but a lot of people they look at it from just that pharmaceutical, you know, healing standpoint, and they just take one pill and pile it up on top of that, and it doesn't help except the pills make them sicker, and then they get another pill, you know. So this was something that was really instrumental in me healing when I really sat down and started to look. I said, okay, I got diagnosed with lupus, and there's nobody else in my family that I know that has this thing. So how is it that I got this? And when I sat down, and I had a particular teacher that I went to, and I really started to do some energy work, and I realized I actually looked at something that happened to me, and I realized that, if you look at autoimmunity is basically the body attacking itself, right? The body is literally turning on itself and trying to kill itself. And one of the questions that I asked myself was, well, at what point did I want to die? And I was talking to Laron about this recently, and I won't go into a ton of detail, but I went back to a specific time when something really traumatic happened to me, and I made a statement, and I realized that statement that I made then basically started the snowball effect. And when I decided, okay, now that I know where that started, I'm going to go ahead and fix it. Fix the words that I said back then, and fix, all of the traumatic effects that particular incident had on me, in order for me to be able to move forward. And by me being able to move forward and healing from what happened to me, it also helped my children for them to start their own healing as well. Because a lot of people don't realize what you're dealing with also impacts your future generation. But it takes a lot of work, and it's painful. It's painful to really sit down and do this work. And a lot of people,
it's not all flowers and roses. It's not all flowers and candy. It definitely isn't. I think LaRon's muted.
I think Gina does that to me so many times. So Shawn, with what Gina was talking about, the energetic, how do you say it, Gina? The energetic
energetic work.
Yeah. So Shawn, kind of speak to how what you do in terms of your life practice or life therapy, or what you do. How would you work and kind of help someone kind of begin to get through some of these things that they've expressed to you traumatically when they say, hey, I need to deal with this? How do you address that?
Well, from an art therapy life coach standpoint, one of the first things I would definitely do with them would be to get them to draw a mandala. That would be one of the first steps I would do. Of course, I would encourage them to journal. I would encourage them to definitely find what element they're most receptive with, and spend time out in that. Like, be it, if they want to be out in the on the park trail where there's trees. If they want to go to the beach, be near the water. If they want to go and stand out in the sun or meditate in the sun, or or if they want to sit out, if they got a fire pit, they want to sit out near the fire pit and just, feel that energy. Those are things that I would encourage them to do to start out with, but also too, I would also, encourage them to look at some of the things that are that they're dependent on, or things that are in their lives that are crutches, or things that they're having a hard time surrendering. So I would tell them to do to get in the habit of creating somewhat of a 21-day surrender box. Get them to really assess the things that has gotten them to the point of where they are. Like, she remembered what she said years ago that started the snowball. So that would be something I would say, Gina, during this time, what was going on in your life? Like, what do you remember? And that will stimulate all kind of thought, and she starts to really start investigating and really peeling back the onion of, like, okay, this is what happened when this all started. This is what I said. This is what I did. This was happened to me, and you just, that's where I started.
Okay.
And it's basically intention. The intention is to give them some responsibility and accountability.
Right.
Not to say that I don't hold space for them in that moment, but I have to somewhat detach from them and what they're going through, and have them help them so that they can deal with what they need to deal with on their own.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Not to say that they're alone, but I'm just saying, like, they can't hold on to me and do the work.
Right.
And they can't hold anybody else responsible to do the work but themselves. They have to push past their fears and really start getting doing this stuff.
And that's where you speak to the part of them holding themselves accountable, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things that I did during my time of healing from lupus was art therapy. And I became a certified art therapy life coach, I think about 2 years ago, because I was doing it. I was an artist, taught for many years. I was already doing it. So I said, well, might as well get certified. But one of the things that I worked with a lot was my art.
Yeah.
And one of the things I did was I painted that emotion. I painted that anger. Whatever I was feeling towards this person that did this to me, I painted it, and I wrote poetry about it. And when I tell you, it was painful. There were tears. There was like anger. I mean, I had a particular pillow that I would punch, and I wrote about it. And you can find different some of my work online where I literally process everything in words and in paintings. And I put myself through. You mentioned a 21-day kind of challenge. I put myself through a 101-day painting challenge, and I created a new painting every day for 101 days.
Wow.
To help me, throughout. And it wasn't just that particular incident. It was that incident, and just being able to forgive. I went through a whole forgiveness part as well. Anybody who might have hurt me, any way that I might have hurt myself, because that's one of the things you also have to work on, is forgiving yourself, because you can't forgive other people if you're unforgiving towards yourself, right? So I had to look at things that I did to myself and to my body, and I wrote letters to somebody asking for forgiveness. I wrote letters to other people asking for forgiveness for things that I might have done to them, and I drew images. I journaled. It was just this path that I went through, and it was rough. It was tough, and it was a lot of work. But Shawn, it is so worth it. And that's what I try to get across to people, in my group and those who follow me, is it's not just about popping a pill. Popping a pill is a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared to find out, why am I sick in the first place? There's something going on that is causing this illness within my body. And
I saw a video earlier of these men. They had this problem where they had these snakes, it was a snake nest in an old pipe on the side of their house. And they were doing everything they could to get to break through the pipe to get the snakes out. At the same time, they were afraid. But then at the same time, I said, they're crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because once they got the pipe open, a couple of the snakes fell out and they were on the ground, and they were still like in a few inches away from it, and they were grabbing them, pulling them up on the porch.
Yeah.
And I was like, that takes some bravery, some courage, but at the same time, it takes some little, you know what I'm saying? So I'm bringing that up because what you're saying is so poignant. It's that's what it's like. It's like you gotta clean the snakes out of your pipe.
Yeah.
It's a snake nest in your pipe. You gotta clean that. You can't have a house and you got a snake nest in your pipes.
Right.
No,
and
Shawn,
that's the part that a lot of people don't recognize, is that it does take a lot of work, and it's painful when you're going through the process, but it is so worth it. Because to me, the pharmaceuticals were literally like numbing my body, and they were slowly killing me. and two of them actually put me into a near-death experience. So when that happened, I was like, this is it, I'm done. So I started researching into herbs and essential oils and other things. But yeah, doing the work and figuring out why are you sick in the first place. You have to go back and find out the origin of whatever traumas that occurred to you and start working on that stuff.
Yeah. So Shawn, when we talked the first time, when we all talked the first time, we kind of talked a lot of these things through, but I know you said that your practice, so is it that you've taken your experience, right? And you've, started what you do, but you had a focus on men. Is that right?
You could kind of say, focus was on men, at the same time women as well. Okay.
And I was just saying, so that because sometimes men have we have a hard time trying to get things out and talk about it. And so I know that's one of the things that you talked about, that you say, hey, I just want to make sure the guys are having a chance to kind of talk some things out, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So to touch on that, so I have a Clubhouse club. For those of you may or may not be on Clubhouse, I have a Clubhouse club called the Lion's Den. And so the intention behind the Clubhouse club is to create a space for men to be vulnerable and share, with no judgment. And as well, just, for us to have discussions around brotherhood and healing. Some of these conversations are very, they're not barbershop conversations. In the barbershop, they're talking about, who's playing the game tonight, or what concert they're going to, but these conversations are real sustainable conversations that are very, like, to some people maybe uncomfortable. Things like erectile dysfunction, things like colonic hydrotherapy, or things like penis health, things like that, penis health and healing, so yeah, like, men it's an area that I definitely work in, because the women need us. You know what I'm saying? The women need us. They're doing their work, and we need to do ours.
And I was basically just kind of want you just kind of say, but it's important for men, because we don't do it, to have that space, as you would say.
Yes.
To kind of just get a lot of these internal things out. And as you said, and I like what you said, it's not unjudgmental. And you need that. And it's not the game, this. No, bro, just let's talk about some things, man. What's going on? Ladies,
it's very important.
Ladies always, they get together, do the girl thing, and they get these things out. But for us as men, we don't do that. We don't do that enough, right?
Yeah. We've been stuck in the house for a year, and who knows how long we will be stuck in the house. But these are things that we need to start doing to restore ourselves, restore the community, restore our relationships with women and our elders and our children. It's very important going forward.
So what do you think is a woman's role in helping men to heal? They're dealing with you're talking about all of the particular topics that you mentioned in the Lion's Den, but what do you see as a woman's role in helping men to get to that point where they can talk about that kind of stuff and not feel like they're making themselves like super vulnerable? Because those are not easy topics to discuss.
Well, I think and not to confuse your audience or your listeners, I think the role, women are already kind of 4 steps ahead of us right now. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. Yeah. It's just that, like Laron said, they have their circles, they have their groups, they have their empowerment circles and sessions and whatnot. But I think their role I don't think they have much really to do but to just hold space and listen. I think that's the best thing that they can do is hold space and listen. When men are ready to take steps to confront their traumas and do what is necessary in order for them to push past those things that they're having blocks with, is to just to hold space for them and be allow them to be heard. Hear what they have to say and just observe what they're saying and take note.
Good point.
That's a good point. Yes.
Because at the end of the day,
because
at the end of the day, still, men still have the responsibility and accountability to take the first step and really take action. Like, women love for us to lead. So we have to take charge and take lead in those areas. That will suffice.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of different things so far. When we did the meet and greet, a couple of things came up as far as different. You mentioned nature, like immersing yourself in nature. What are some other forms of or different modalities that you've worked with as far as helping to heal? Did you work with things like sound? Tai Chi, meditation, what types of meditation, if there's any specific types that you worked with?
So sound healing, I've gotten into as of recently, and then as well as chanting, throat singing, those are things I've gotten into recently. As far as in the nature aspect, for many years, I used to spend at least a day a month, and it was like considered my self-care, ritual is I would spend a day at a Korean spa. And if any of you've been to a Korean spa, you have your bath houses, you have your mineral baths, you have your saunas, you have your, you can get a massage, you have your, your rooms, those heated rooms or those cold rooms that have those crystals that have different, that different attributes that heal certain ailments in the body, that open up certain pathways in the body that are blocked. You may have, like, where you go to a Korean spa where they have acupuncture, they may have stone massage, or you might just go into a pool of water that's full of eucalyptus and just soak in that and allow all the toxins to come out of your body. You're eating good food, fresh food. You're eating. You're drinking smoothies, with fresh fruits in them and stuff. And then you're just in a peaceful environment. You're amongst people that are there for the same thing. Be it if you're by yourself or if you're with a friend or somebody like that. Another avenue is just simply going to the beach and spending some time in the water. Like I used to go to beaches back a couple years ago, and I used to see a lot of our people being afraid to go into the water just in general. And they're at the beach. Yeah. They got shorts on, and they're having a good time, but they're too afraid to go into the water. Or you go to a park trail. Most areas, wherever you at have a park trail now. And you may only see like a certain group of people in those environments, and you see their kids, but then when it comes to your own people, you don't really see them. So those are two areas that I spent a lot of time, and I spent a lot of time not only just drawing in the park, in wooded areas, but I would also walk. I would go foraging and try to find and see what plants that I don't know about, or herbs that I don't know about, animals that I've never seen or whatever like that. Those are different things that I would do. Another thing that I used to do, or that I kind of still do, is travel. you know. Staying stagnant in our own environments for so long, that has a big impact on us emotionally and socially, you know, be it if we're living by ourselves or be it if we live with other people. Like we need to really take that seriously and take time out for ourselves. You know, even if it's only a couple days, go somewhere, go somewhere that you've never been before that you wanted to go to, or if you have a friend in another city, you know, link up with them and, you know, go explore what's in that city. You know, don't stay cooped up in the house. So that's something else that I do. You know, I was the only child for 9 years, so I spent a great deal of time by myself. I spent a great time on video games and in a room, locked in a room by myself. So as I've aged, as I've gotten older, I've become more outgoing and you know, took it seriously that I need to spend time out in nature in some form of fashion. You know, I had another thing to add to that is gardening. You know, gardening was something that I picked up years ago that was very therapeutic for me. It was very healing for me. You know, just getting in the dirt and planting seeds, you know, loosening up the soil and pulling up weeds. It gives you like a really strong release. Like you're like, man, like this is different from going to the gym.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I don't know how to plant, but I'm planting. You know what I mean? And then you look up, you didn't grow some cucumbers, you didn't grow some tomatoes, some green peppers.
Exactly.
You know, and then you've cleared the land and like, you know, the birds are appreciative, you know, and the squirrels or whoever, the cats, you know, whoever comes into the yard when you're not there.
So I'm going to touch on a couple of things that you mentioned. Because I know you mentioned about the Korean spa, but for people who are not able to go to these places, how can you create that kind of an experience at home? And I'm just going to give a few ideas that I do, and then you can probably, you know, kind of expound on them a little bit. So taking a salt bath at home, right, with Epsom salt, some Himalayan pink salt, that sort of thing. Maybe put in some herbs into the bath water. There's an easy way to do it. You can make your own smoothies at home, right? One of the things that I like to do is called Abhyanga, and that's an Ayurvedic term, which is basically a self-massage using warm oil, right? So you do that before, you know, after you've done kind of a dry brushing to remove all of the dead skin off of your body, and then you do the Abhyanga, and it's just a lot of people probably won't see this as luxurious, but when you are massaging warm oil over your body, it's an experience, and it's really simple to do at home by yourself, you know. So a lot of these people, I'm sure when they're hearing you mention the Korean spa, they're like, I'm sure that's really good, but how does he expect us to, you know, to be going to these places? But these are simple things that you can do at home, you know.
They're you know, you mentioned salt. You know, like you can create your own spiritual bath using herbs. You can use certain salts. You can use certain oils, like you just mentioned, to create that experience, you know, at home. You know, another thing that I'm noticing now, you know, especially with the whole rise or just reemergence of people or I say women using yoni steams. You know, you have some people who have steam lodges. You know, they may have like a mobile steam lodge, or they may have a steam lodge in their backyard. Or you have some people who now have mobile saunas where they can, you know, they can have a sauna in their home. You know, it's not the same exact thing, or you can get one built. You know, you can get one built, or you can have one that's mobile, and it's like it's sort of like it's almost like you sit inside and you zip this cover up and you sit in it. Those are things that people can do now. You know, they don't have to, if they don't want to, they don't have to go to a Korean spa. I mean, some Korean spas are open right now. You know, I encourage people to go to them. But if if you're home and you don't feel comfortable going to one, you know, create your experience at home. You know, get the things that maybe are on the market or that are available to you, and create that experience for yourself. in your home. You can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Get a massage table. Get a massage table. Get some oil. Get some candles, and create that experience for you and your partner or yourself.
Right.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the bath. Same thing with the massage. Same thing with just communing with the elements. Go spend a day together out in the park or something like that, or in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Do some gardening together.
And one of the things people don't realize about gardening is that it's therapeutic, but the mere act of playing in the dirt is also building your immune system, because there's so many microbes that are in that soil that we need to help to build our immune system. And people I see a lot of people like to garden with gloves on. I'm one of those. I don't have nails, and that's the reason why, because I paint and I also dig in the dirt, and I love to feel the dirt. I don't like to have gloves on when I'm digging the soil. No. Yeah.
I like that too. I like not having gloves on, getting down in the nitty gritty and getting dirty, and really having a real communion with the earth.
Right.
One of these days I'm going to burn myself in the dirt. not for good, just maybe for a few hours, and just see what experience it is for me.
One other thing I wanted to mention, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, Laron, because I know that you have a question. But there's a beach here in Florida, because you mentioned going to the ocean and getting into that salt water. That is very therapeutic in itself, and it's very healing. But there's a beach here called Siesta Key, and the sand is 99% clear quartz crystal.
Oh wow!
So when you walk on it's never hot. It's always cool to walk on, but it's healing at the same time, because we know that the clear quartz kind of helps to amplify your energies, but it's a very healing crystal, right? So you walk on it, and it could be scorching hot. That sand is always cool. So that's one of my favorite places. Once I discovered Siesta Key, when I was really ill years ago, that's one of the places I went. And I remember going there on a day that I was very, very sick. And I just lay down in the sand. I had the umbrella. Everybody else was in the water. But I just lay there on the sand. And by the time we got ready to go, I had zero pain in my body. Zero pain.
There you go.
Because this particular area is filled with a lot of different healing businesses, because they've realized just the potential for this water there, and the fact that the sand is made up of 99% clear quartz crystal, and a lot of people don't realize that. So you mentioned crystals, and I definitely want us to kind of develop that a little bit more in session 2.
Okay.
I think that's a topic that we could go on and on and on about as well.
Okay.
Ron, I know we're talking too much, right?
No. No, I was just saying, I wanted to just go back to what he was saying earlier about the doing the lawn work and everything, because I'm always doing computers, and I'm into the tech world and everything. But sometimes I just love to get out, like you said, in the nature. Just get in there, just cut the yard, the lawnmower, the clipping, and just because it's very therapeutic. It's very, very, very therapeutic. And you mentioned, did you say how did you say you wanted to kind of like do what? You said you wanted to do something in the dirt. Is that what you said, Shawn?
I was saying one of these days I want to get myself buried in the dirt and like spend a couple hours just laying in the dirt to see what that experience is like.
Just kind of see what that feels like on your body. That's kind of interesting. That's an interesting thought. Yeah. That's wow. That's would you kind of like do chemical? Would you do some treatment on the dirt or something, or just soil? Is there a place that you go that they do that to you, or is it on the beach? I know they do it on the beach.
Oh, not that I know of. Not that I know of. But my teacher, my tantra teacher, she shared when I first got into tantra, she was sharing an experience that she had where she was buried in the dirt for a few hours. I think it was somebody else with her, but it was basically her teaching us different ways in which we can commune with the elements. And so that was an example of communing with the earth element.
And for people who don't want to get buried in the dirt, you can simply go and stand on the soil, bare feet, for 30, 45
put your
minutes.
feet, put your feet in the dirt or whatever. Like she did, she did with the sand. Like she buried herself in the sand, and it, luckily the sand was clear quartz. So just imagine what type of, therapy that was for her.
Mm-hmm.
Because that too is I guess you could call that would be an earth element too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very much so.
It's considered to be an earth element because the crystals.
And she was near the water. And she was near the water, so she added on to the elemental experience.
Right. Wow. And these are the kind of things for those of you who are watching. I mean, it's kind of, we're streaming from StreamYard, but we're not seeing any comments, but we'll check back later.
Okay.
So on my lupus page and my YouTube channel, all of those, and you've heard me talk about different modalities over the years. These are some of the things I've worked with over the years that have brought me to the person you see sitting in front of you. Because 7-8 years ago, I was constantly sick. I woke up sick every single day. Yeah. And I got to a point where I said, enough is enough. There's got to be more than just popping pharmaceutical pills on a daily basis. Yeah. And it was that one moment where I collapsed that really sent me to the emergency room. And I made that decision that day. I'm going to be working with a lot of other things. And, some of the things you mentioned already, the forest bathing, the salt baths, herbal remedies, the essential oils, these are all part of my daily routine. Things I do every single day, even today. Because I believe that if I continued on the pharmaceutical path, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Yeah. This was something that I started say almost 10 years ago, but I started out going to get a pedicure and manicure every now and then. And then I would go to where they were doing like stone massage or the regular spa massage, and then for me traveling and being in different states and seeing what was available to me, that's when I got into going to the Korean spas. And, if I traveled to a certain place, like say if I was in California, I would look up and try to find what beaches were around, or I would try to find what park trails were around, or public park or whatever like that. And just spend time, just spend time, nothing extravagant, just spending time.
And a simple way to commune with nature. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go outside and lay under a tree. I mean, that's something I do, but you can bring, right now I have this plant behind me. I have another plant right there. Bring nature in. You can bring plants into your home. Because the plants, they help to clean your air. They help to make they beautify your atmosphere for one, and they help to clean your air. So if you can't make it outside, for illness reasons or for whatever reason, then just bring a few plants inside your home. And
now just recently I bought a lavender plant. I bought a pink jasmine. I bought an orchid. I used to have an orchid at my job before I got furloughed. I kept the orchid on my desk, So yeah, like the plants, bring them in. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Laron, I know you have a burning question.
No, I was just thinking what I wanted to say to Shawn is, as you were saying all of that, Shawn, I was just kind of thinking, as a guy.
Yeah.
We're talking about things that I don't think guys, we don't talk like that.
We don't have these conversations. We don't
have these conversations. And
we don't share this type of stuff. Yeah.
So is it weird, Gina, for women to hear guys talk about stuff like this? I mean, a group. And now before you answer that, Shawn, because you have your den where the guys come in. Do you kind of push the conversation to get guys to open up about stuff like this? Is this just a way of that's just kind of healing or doing that therapeutic process for when you're in the men's den, right? Is that?
I mean, I bring up the conversations, you know, and sort of like, you know, open up the room for discussion, and, you know, whatever resonates with men, you know, and I give them the freedom to share if they have a question, if they have something to share about an experience, then they do. You know, the women that come in the room, they just mainly listen. They like to hear men, like they like to hear men's perspectives based on the discussion on the topic. Mm-hmm. You know, because like you said, like this is not the norm. This is not what is in the regular. Like, you're not walking down the street and men are talking about this stuff. You know. Yeah. You know, so yeah, I don't really force them to do anything that they don't want to do in the discussions. If they're just sitting there and they just want to listen, that's fine. You know, we are all, as men, we are all at different levels in consciousness. We are all at different levels in our healing. You know what I'm saying? We are all at different levels in just what we're comfortable communicating or comfortable doing and not doing. You know. And that's okay. You know, that's okay. You know, some people, I know some people, like for me, like based on my experiences, I've had a lot of experiences years ago, and it's prepared me for, to sort of help men kind of get over that threshold or get over those things that may be hard for them to talk about. You know, it's sort of like I'm trying to think of the word, not rabble rouser, but just someone who, you know, like someone who is like, you know how like they what was the commercial when you were a kid? Mikey, you know, Mikey's gonna eat it.
Yeah, Mikey will do
That's
it.
That's me. I'm Mikey. You know.
And you
nobody,
know, I guess
nobody else wants to eat it. I'm gonna eat it. You know. Yeah.
And I guess when we had talked earlier, I know we kind of touched on it because I'm just looking at some of my notes. Because for boys, little boys and guys, we grow up, you know, we're told to like, you know, to like suppress our emotions, you know, don't talk like that, you know, shut up. I think we use that word as well too. Remember we talked like that? We've talked about that. Yeah. Is that why it's kind of hard for guys to kind of talk like, you know, about some of this stuff, but you just, you know, because that's how we were raised as little boys, right? We got to be strong guys. Yeah.
Yeah, don't cry. There's like that. You know, when you're a baby, you know, up to a certain point when you grow up, you know, you're able to breathe. You're able to breathe properly. You're fearless. You have no fear. You're open to discovery. You're open to exploring. You know, yeah, your parents may be trying to protect you and guard you from getting hurt. But, you know, some parents, they allow their child to fall or whatever like that. But then you get to a certain point in your childhood where fear kind of sets in or settles in, or something happens traumatic, and that emotional development is cut off. You know, so it's like for boys, you know, whereas girls, they get free reign to emotionally develop. Yeah. You know, whereas boys don't get that free reign to emotionally and socially develop. You know, especially if, you know, a lot of us came up in a single mother household. You know, your mother's, depending on your mother and your relationship with your mother, you know, she may cut you off from that development and tell you to stop crying. You know, telling you to, you know, be a man. You know, I remember those days of that, and not being afraid to fight. You know, if you can terrorize your sister or terrorize your brother, then go out and fight those boys out there, like that kind of thing. You know, growing up. You know, so it's like, yeah, there's a disconnect, there's a cutoff with a lot of us, where we don't fully develop ourselves socially and emotionally. Yeah. You know.
So Shawn, let me ask you. So, would you say from what your expertise, because men sometimes are told to suppress our emotions, do you think that sometimes affect men in relationships?
100%. 100%. Like someone asked me recently, you know, why would a man why would a man not say yes to a good, woman or a woman who has all the qualities that he needs, to go forward? And I said it has a lot to do with his unresolved traumas. Some men will go back to the dysfunction in the drama and the trauma that they are so used to. They may come across a good girl and she's got everything that they want, but it's like it scares the hell out of them, and they'll self-sabotage,
Right.
But until they start to deal with the unresolved traumas, they're gonna run into those same problems, every time they run across a girl who's a good fit for them,
And to answer Laron's question that he posed earlier, yes, this was very refreshing hearing all of this from a guy's perspective. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on the show, was because as I was going through your Instagram profile, just some of the topics that you were discussing, I thought, I've heard all of this stuff from a woman's perspective, but never from a guy. So I really needed you to come on and discuss these from a guy's perspective. And some of the things that we're going to talk about in part 2, things like tantra and your expertise, or your building expertise in that area. That's another thing. I mean, it's in a lot of cultures, it's considered to be a taboo topic, but we are going to discuss it in the next episode. So for those of you who are watching, you don't want to miss part 2. We'll let you know when that's going to happen. But yeah, I needed to hear this, and it's so refreshing coming from a guy's standpoint, because I've heard all of this from the woman's perspective, but we really need to reach out to the guys and let the men need to heal as well. We can't, all these women can't be walking around all healed from all of their junk, and then the guys are still over here, cowering and not wanting to do the work. Because when everybody's healed, then that's when true community in a relationship can take place.
Well, yeah. The restoration of men and women are at hand right now, and the community is at hand as well. With men, though, I mainly speak for myself when I say this, but I know there are men that can relate to what I'm about to say. Is that we tend to do things when we're ready to do them. We don't necessarily particularly like to be pressured into doing anything that we aren't ready to do. When we are ready to do them, we will do them. Sometimes certain circumstances happen where we're forced to do them. But for the most part, we are people that just feel like we're going to do things when we're ready to do them. We can be stubborn. Yeah, we can be stubborn. We can be prideful. We can be our ego is very much involved in our decision making, or just we want to control. We don't want to surrender, so in due time, it's coming. It is coming. Like I said earlier, like we've been in COVID for a year. We've been stuck home for a year, and money is good. Money's good. Entertainment's fun. Sports is fun, but your mental health, your well-being, that should be your number one priority going forward in 2021. Whether you're a man or a woman, but we're talking about men, definitely, that should be a priority of yours.
Right. I agree. Everyone.
Yeah, I agree.
It's important to everyone.
I definitely agree.
Yeah. Yep.
One of the things I want to touch, you touched on this a little bit earlier, but I want to develop it a little bit more. In our previous discussion, you mentioned about, is it colonic hydrotherapy?
Correct.
Is that the correct word? Okay, colonic hydrotherapy, and how that has led to some people's kind of spiritual evolution. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because I know whenever you're doing, I've had a colonoscopy done. And I remember having to drink this really like nasty stuff. And Basically, the bathroom was your friend after drinking that. Let's just put it that way. And
hello, bathroom.
you know, after having that done, I didn't necessarily have a spiritual moment. I don't remember having that. There was other things where I had a spiritual experience. But the colonoscopy didn't. But let's talk about the colonic hydrotherapy in relation to the. I know you have a couple of people that you can mention, not their names, but just the experience as far as their spiritual evolution and how fasting can kind of tie into all of that as well. Because I want to develop fasting a little bit more as well.
So for the folks who I personally know who have had certain experiences getting colonic hydrotherapy, and those who I know who do procedures on their patients, and particularly have shared that they or their patients have had these experiences emotionally where they're in the middle of the procedure and they can literally feel things that were inside of them that they either had no idea, that they were there, or that they might have been aware of a little bit, but there was some sort of connection with, say, a family member who had passed away. One in particular, where the guy he started reflecting on his mother, and in that moment he got really emotional, started crying during the procedure, as he was releasing, all of this fecal matter that had been in him for God knows how long, and the therapist, she shared that she held space for him, held him and as he was crying, and he was saying how he wanted his mother. There was another experience where someone that I knew shared, they shared about, they didn't even put two and two together when they were in the procedure, and the therapist actually reminded them or kind of gave them the understanding that this feeling that they were feeling as they were being flushed out had to do with their connection and relationship with their mother. And they didn't even think about it that way. But as they sat and processed it, it made a lot of sense to them that, hey, this healing therapy has really kind of helped me to, kind of come to grips with something that I didn't even really know that I had going on in me, and so from what I understood through these explanations was that also too, when you go through these colonic therapy procedures, it also shows you the things that you need to leave alone, as far as food in your diet, because another person shared that when they would go to the market, they noticed they had this self-awareness now, and they had this mental clarity now that they didn't want meat because they didn't like how it smelled when they would walk through the meat section. Like it this whole experience opened them up and made them more aware. Whatever it was that was blocking them from having that awareness now was shedding light, in their everyday. So they decided that they were gonna shift their diet and eat certain things in moderation and stay away from certain things that they had been dealing with beforehand. So go ahead.
So the colonic hydrotherapy is a therapeutic procedure rather than a diagnostic procedure.
Yes, right? It is a therapeutic. So when you look
at a colonoscopy, that's more of a diagnostic tool, but the colonic hydrotherapy is more of a therapeutic.
Okay. Yes, because we're dealing with the elements, so we're dealing with water.
Right.
We're dealing with water that's flushing all of that stuff that is like the gook in the bottom of your stomach that's been there for God knows how long.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize, that if you have an issue with bloating, it's not necessarily having to do with the fact that you may have some excess weight, but a lot of the times it's just that built up junk that is sticking to your intestines
sticking to your walls, to your large intestine. Yeah.
That needs to just get flushed out. So that would be a really good procedure to
me, I like to look at it as you're getting a power wash inside of your body.
Right.
Like how you have like mildew or on the stucco on the side of your house, or you have like some sort of like say you got to wash the car and the car got really dirty. That's how I look at colonic hydrotherapy, is that you're getting a spiritual power wash inside of your body.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
All right. So encouragement to men. Men have nothing really to be afraid of when they get those things done. They don't have, they have to let down and surrender those programmers of thinking that because something's going up their anus, that they are they're this way or that way sexually. It has nothing to do with that. Right. So the bigger picture of it is it's you cleaning your temple. Exactly.
Like you're getting a deep clean. You're deep cleaning your temple.
Good way to
just like you want your house deep clean, you might do it. You might do that every once a month or something like that. It's sort of the same thing with your body. Why would the same way your house is treated, the same way your car is treated, why would you not want to treat your body the same way?
You touched on one thing earlier, and I want to develop that a little bit and make this like the last thing that we really discuss here, because I have a list for part 2. It's gonna be juicy, y'all. You definitely want to come back for part 2. But you mentioned chanting, and for me, chanting is a form of sound therapy. And I remember when I was growing up, I'd hear my grandmother humming all the time. And that also is a form of sound therapy, but it's like creating a vibration within your body, right? So how develop that a little bit more. How does chanting help as far as the healing process is concerned?
Yeah, but what is chanting? What is that?
Well, chanting was something I had experience with when I was in my teens. My father was a Buddhist, and he encouraged me to read books about Buddhism. He encouraged me to not even necessarily encourage. He really he was a rigid guy, so he made me chant. Chanting was sort of a way to regulate or balance the sympathetic nervous system with the parasympathetic nervous system within the body, and kind of alleviate the stress and balance the stress and just get more mental clarity. But chanting is you sort of either speaking certain mantras. Chanting would be considered a form of mantra. Mantras are affirmations that you speak to yourself. You speak to the subconscious, you speak to yourself, and these mantras open you up. They open you up. They, depending on the chant, you may cry, or you may sort of express yourself more in a more enthusiastic way, depending on what is opening up for you, be it your throat chakra, your crown chakra, your root chakra, your sacral chakra, your heart chakra, and then for us people of color, we have melanin in our body. So, with the melanin and us doing that chanting, we are turning things online in our bodies that have maybe been dormant. And that goes back to what I was saying, how we we just need to remember. We just need to remember. And so chanting also helps us to remember. When we unlock and turn some of these things on in our body when we're chanting, it helps us to remember.
But you said I want to go ahead, Gina.
I want to mention one thing, because I know that this particular word that you mentioned kind of, from a Christian perspective, they kind of look at it as not being the word that we should be using, and that's the word chakra. Because I've heard other Christians mention it, that the word chakra is like an evil term. But so I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. The term chakra is a Sanskrit word that basically means an energy center. And you mentioned about the sacral chakra, the heart chakra, the solar, we have different energy centers in our body. You have the brain up here.
Correct.
You've got the throat right here. You got the third eye.
Correct.
You have the heart chakra, which is that energy center that pumps all of your blood everywhere. You have the solar plexus chakra, the sacral chakra. Well, the solar plexus is where your digestive system resides. That's where your immune system, a lot of your immune system resides. You have your sacral chakra, which is considered to be your seat of creation. And we're not talking about creating babies. We're talking about your ideas, your imagination, all of your creative juices that tend to be where they flow from. Your root chakra is considered to be what connects you to the earth, right? So when we use the term chakra, we're not using some evil word. We're talking about an energy center of your body. So I wanted to get that clear for those of you, and I know that Shawn, you mentioned that your dad was a Buddhist, but you've spoken a lot from Christian perspective in the last interview that we had together. So I know sometimes I tend to use words as well that come from the Buddhist tradition, but it's not because I'm Buddhist. It's because I have studied a lot of these things, and some of the words, rather than try to put them into on one of our previous interviews, I mentioned the lotus flower. And the lotus flower has huge significance in the Buddhist tradition. But the principle behind the lotus flower has huge significance for me because of the journey that I was on, with lupus. And it basically meant a journey of transformation. And if you look at some of my pictures from 7, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, when I was first diagnosed with lupus, it would scare you, right? Because I would wake up every morning and I looked horrible. So the lotus flower basically represents, that muck, that dirt that it has to go through. That was all of the illness that I had to go through. And then I pushed through, and here I am with
transformed.
Exactly. Transformed into this, there's no evidence of the muck and grime on the flower. So I said all of that because I don't want people to get the wrong idea about these terms that we're using. And like I said, have an open mind and do your research into this stuff, and know that when we're using these terms, we're not trying to throw out like any kind of demonic terms out there at you.
Because I'll just follow up on that part, Gina, because like you said, you earlier, Shawn, you mentioned like Buddhists, and then chakra being, more, Gina, you mentioned something that Christians was kind of looking at a little bit different. I definitely, any of the views and comments that's made on this particular show, we're not trying to push one religion or one belief. That is not what we're doing at all. All the views and expressions that's stated in regards to this conversation are solely the views of the person that's expressing them, and not the views of Black Digital Media TV. So I don't want anybody out there saying, "Oh, Black Digital Media TV is out there talking about Buddhists and this." That is not. So just make sure we this is a platform, and when platform, those come on, you're a business, and this is what you do as a practice. So we just want to, give you an opportunity to share what you do, and people, if they come to you and take advantage of your services, then that's what this platform is for. But definitely, we're not out trying to push any religion. So let's just make sure we just state that part as well too, right?
And one of the things that you also mentioned, I wanted to address, was you mentioned the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. And that's one of the things that in order for us to really heal from our traumas, we have to address the parasympathetic, because so many of us live in that fight or flight mode all day, and we live in that stress all day and worry why we end up getting sick. And it's because we are not addressing or healing our parasympathetic, which is the one, in order whether there's a nerve, and it's called the vagus nerve. And that basically kind of starts, I think it's at like the back of your head, kind of wraps around your ears and comes down, and I think lands in the gut area.
Correct.
And in order, I mean, you're literally kind of connecting your head, your brain, and your gut. And that is the important area that really needs to be healed in order to heal from any kind of chronic illness that we're talking about, that you might be experiencing. When you heal the vagus nerve, the whole fight or flight, you find that you're not, you don't get scared very easily, you don't get sick very easily. And I think you mentioned, I was thinking about this. One of the things I do on a daily basis to help my vagus nerve or the parasympathetic is taking a cold shower. I start off with a hot shower, but the last 3 minutes, I turn that hot water off, crank up that cold water, and then stand there, and you take that cold shower. That helps.
You turn that cold water when I'm in there, I'm gonna run out of there. Keep it warm. Keep it warm.
The vagus nerve, though. The same thing with the humming and the chanting. That also helps to heal the parasympathetic. And all of this stuff that I'm saying sounds really off the wall, but I'm telling you, it helps. It really helped me when I was healing from lupus. It wasn't just one thing that I did. It was I found a lot of different modalities that I work with on a daily basis to help heal me and to keep me in that healed mode.
Yeah. I, everything that you said, I do. Like I was in the shower this morning, and I was throat singing, and tears coming down my eyes. And then those last 2-3 minutes, it's like hit me cold water.
Turn it off.
But these are things that help to heal the body. And there's a guy, I think he calls himself the Wolfman, and you see pictures of him sitting on a frozen lake with just a pair of shorts on, and he never gets sick, because this is something he does on a regular basis, is this cold immersion, because it really does help the immune system.
Yeah, so. Just like I was saying earlier about being out in the sun. Like if you're at the beach, or wherever you're at and the sun is out, take some time to sun gaze, or just be in the sun for at least an hour, 2 hours. You're activating your melanin. You're activating your melanin, and you're, like you said, you talked about your solar and your sacral chakra. Like you're turning that stuff online. And for those people, like you said, Laron, that may not associate with the Buddhist religion, that's fine. We're not necessarily talking about religion. You got to step outside of religion to really understand what I'm talking about. Like, this is about your body. You have multiple energetic systems in your body that you either have been neglecting or ignoring, or that you don't even realize you have access to. And for those Christians who may be listening, Jesus did say, you would do greater things than I will. So if we're talking about doing greater things than he did, then and our body's a temple, put 2 and 2 together. Your body is more than just bone and blood. Like, your body has a lot of different things within it that you need to be open to discovery about and tap into.
I like to say that we are a spiritual being having a human experience. So a lot of people tend to forget the spiritual aspect of us and just focus on the, that physical part that they can touch, but and completely neglect the spiritual part of who we are. And that's the part that's usually what needs to be healed first in order to be able to heal the physical body.
Yeah. See, we are people, or even as humans in general, we've been in the fight or flight for so long. We don't know what it's like to be at peace. We don't know what it's like to have that balance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. We're always in a defensive mode. We're always in a fight or flight mode. We're always in a survival mode. So anything that we are told or shown that is not the norm or against what we were brought up to believe, we automatically get defensive. We automatically get offended, so it's like, until we deal with that part of ourselves and bring some restoration back to our body, we're gonna have that same kind of mentality for God knows how long. And if you want to get out of that, start getting into these healing therapies and learning these healing therapies to balance yourself. Like I have a friend that I spoke to the other day, or actually no, a driver that I met the other day, and he was like, I've been all over the world, and he's like, it's the same everywhere. It's like you have your nice places and you have your not so nice places. It's all about how you carry yourself, and it's all about how you perceive and how you see what it is, the environment that you're in, and how you carry yourself energetically. Whether you're going to get whatever certain whatever is attracting to you that's dangerous, or whatever that's attracting to you that isn't.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And on that note, I think that's a good place for us to stop for today.
Yeah.
I've been taking
great discussion.
Yeah, we're at an hour and a half, and I know that we definitely are going to have a part 2. And for those of you who are just joining us, let me give you just a tidbit of what's coming up for part 2. We're going to be talking about, because I know you kind of suggested reflexology, not necessarily using the word, but you did talk about the feet and the importance of the feet. We're going to talk about reflexology a little bit in the next session. We're going to develop sound therapy a little bit more, energy healing, and different, just a simple energy routine that you can do on a daily basis to kind of, raise your frequency, raise your energy. Nutrition is huge. We kind of touched on it today, but we'll develop it a little bit more. And the big topic for part 2 is going to be Tantra.
Okay.
And on that, yes. Those are the things you have to look forward to in part 2 with Shawn Belton, also known as the Dream Sketcher.
Yeah.
So, Laron, any final words, questions?
Yeah, well, I just want to say thank you, Shawn, for coming on, and glad to have you. I mean, it was just same lively discussion we had when we first met each other, and we talked these things through. So, you just never realize how much, the healing that we really need to do and how we start that process. Yeah. In whatever ways that we believe, and through, expertise like yourself in these type of relationships. But whatever we have to do, we have to definitely begin to have that internal healing. That's good for ourselves. That's good for our families. That's good for our work. That's good for our business. We have to find these things and talk these things through, and find those that, kind of see things the way that we see it. You know what I'm saying? And we can kind of talk these things through, but everyone needs to begin that healing process somehow. And that starts from within. So definitely you're the expertise, you're the expert in that particular area as well too. So again, we're just glad having you on. And again, I just want to say at the end, we're looking forward to next time. Any views that's expressed today is totally the views of the one that's expressing it, not the total views of Black Digital Media TV. And I just want to make sure we provide a platform for businesses to come on to talk about their passion, why they started their business. We just want to be because we just become another voice to the digital platforms that you're already using. And I think that's how we begin to build strength in our communities is that we come together and we share our platforms together. And I think that's how we benefit our communities moving forward. So definitely it was a pleasure having you, Shawn. Thank you so much. Gina, any other last words for you?
Yep. Thank you so much again, Shawn. This was, like I said, very refreshing hearing it from a male perspective. For those of you who are watching, again, this was part 1. Part 2 is going to be coming up. We will let you know exactly when that is going to be. But thank you all so much for sharing this time with us. If you do have any questions, simply go ahead and post them in the comment section, whether it's on YouTube or on Facebook, where we're also streaming to, and we will answer those as best as we can. And I know that Shawn will also be checking, and he will be responding to those comments at his earliest convenience as well. But thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you again, Shawn, and I so look forward to part 2 of our discussion. And Laron, thank you again for being here with me as well.
All right.
And we will see you all again real soon.
Take care.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.